For entrepreneurs and those seeking a lifestyle to satisfy their dreams, New York at the turn of the 20th century was an atmosphere of creative opportunities unleashed. The political situation in the United States at the close of the 1900s formed a framework that many Americans began to embody. The 25th President, William McKinley, surveyed his country from the White House in Washington, D.C. Dressed carefully in his tailored coat with stiff collar, he was a skillful speaker. Not long after he took office, in 1897, he pressed Congress to intervene in the conflict with Spain. McKinley explained that he was determined to remain neutral in the affair, but he was also quoted as saying that he would go to war if necessary to protect U.S. interests. The U.S. did go to war. While the Spanish-American War was underway, the president coined a phrase: prosperity at home and prestige abroad. The war with Spain lasted 113 days. The result was that the United States took over most of Spain's overseas territories. This included Puerto Rico. Spain was left with only a few outposts in northern Africa. After the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1898, the United States took possession of Hawaii. Not wanting to lose momentum, the next year McKinley persevered and he gained part of Samoa. It was then obvious that the United States had become involved with the Asian world. This far-reaching acquisition swept its way into popular culture, in textile designs, woodblock patterns, clothing trends, and sculptural elements. On a political note, there became an open-door policy in which all nations could freely trade with China. This became the basis of American policy that exists to this day. McKinley, who was a supporter of big business and industrial consolidation, was focused on how companies could grow, combine, and form powerful conglomerates. McKinley's view remained strong: prosperity at home and prestige abroad. Meanwhile, in New York, on July 24, 1901, Jacques-Henri Bustanoby was born. He was the fourth of four boys. His father was a wine merchant, according to the passage records, on the transatlantic trip that he and his wife made right before each of the boys was born. Jacques-Henri's father's name was André. His mother's name was Concepcion, affectionately called Concha. She was of Spanish nobility according to her records, and grew up on the northern coast of Spain in a small village near Bilbao. Her documents also recorded that she had blue eyes and was in her 24th year when Jacques-Henri Bustanoby was born. André, her husband, was 30. 43 days after Jacques-Henri Bustanoby was born, the President of the United States attended a reception on the grounds of the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, New York, and a crowd of enthusiastic people were there. Among these supporters was an anarchist who opposed the government's regulations. When McKinley approached the crowd to shake hands, the anarchist had another idea. A handkerchief-covered revolver fired at McKinley at close range. One bullet bounced off his vest. The second bullet penetrated his midsection. McKinley was rushed to the hospital. 8 days later, with gangrene and infection filling his body, he died. It was September 14th, 1901, 6 months after the beginning of McKinley's second term as president. There had been national upheaval after McKinley's vice president had died. It was Theodore Roosevelt who had emerged less than 2 years previously and took Garrett Hobart's place as vice president. Now, after McKinley's assassination, Theodore Roosevelt looked forward into a new century in the position of president. As Jacques-Henri Bustanoby began to grow up in an apartment on 147 East 54th Street in Manhattan, that same year, John B. Martin, a well-known restaurateur, learned that Delmonico, a Swiss restaurant owner, was vacating his popular restaurant site on 26th Street and Fifth Avenue. The Delmonicos wanted to move uptown. This opening on 26th Street offered an opportunity for the Martin family. At the 26th Street location, the Martins created side-by-side eating, known as the banquette. This new style of eating, in what we call a booth today, was attractive to men who wished to entertain young women who were not their wives. Café Martin became the rendezvous for the smart set of the upwardly rising class of Americans. At that location, André Bustanoby, who was an architect by training, decided to share the expert cooking skills of his grandmother Marie. She was trained in Nice near Pau, France, and had taught all the Bustanobys the recipes that had won her culinary award for her skills. To gain favor in a new country, André eagerly shared many innovative recipes and ideas. When André, with his brothers joining him, he became well trained there, and also at another of the Delmonico restaurants at 44th and Fifth Avenue. During this time, innovative recipes became standards. These included baked Alaska, eggs Benedict, and ears of corn served with tiny handles poked into each end. The enterprising Bustanoby brothers pooled every bit of money they saved while working at Café Martin and Delmonico's, and fulfilled a plan. Many of the clientele so familiar at Delmonico's quickly took their evening meals at a newly opened restaurant located at 40th Street and 6th Avenue that the Bustanobys opened. The French brothers from Pau, Louis, André, and Uncle Jacques, were well on their way to success. The decor and ambiance was impeccable, and restaurant-goers were introduced to a continental service and atmosphere created by everyone employed. The Bustanoby family's fame spread quickly, and their achievements invited other entrepreneurs to capitalize on the French style in America. Other restaurants along the Midtown Circuit began to adopt French names for dishes. Menus were invented that allowed people to pick and choose from selections that included foods that were not before served. Having attracted the rich and famous to their restaurant, which they called the Café des Beaux-Arts, while Jacques-Henri was learning to walk, his father and brother found innovative ways to attract personalities of stage and screen, successful financiers, Broadway stars, and those of glamour and grace, to enjoy their venue. It was Rudolph Valentino who got his start as a gigolo, yes, the first ever taxi dancer at Café des Beaux-Arts. This concept was originated by the Bustanoby brothers in 1904. The son of a small-town Italian veterinarian and French mother, Rudolfo Valentino emigrated in 1903 to New York, and after accepting a job at Bustanobys, he made friends with fellow diners, Count Alex Saum, his brother Otto, and George Ragni, who with style and luxury spoke with Rudy in French and a little Italian. It was on the newly installed dance floor that Bustanobys had revolutionized that Rudolph Valentino danced for the first time in America. Attracted by the tango's sensuality, but realizing he was an unpolished dancer, he asked Count Alex Saum to teach him the complicated steps that the Count knew so very well. Count Alex Saum, an ancestor of Jane Fonda, did not know while watching his dance student of the tango that Rudy Valentino perfected his style, not only enjoyed French food from the kitchen of Bustanobys, but would become a star of the silver screen. For the next decade, women would swoon and prostrate themselves while watching him dance. Popular with theater-goers, the grandeur of guests attracted by the Bustanobys included such company as producer Florence Ziegfeld, his singer-wife Anna Held, and stage celebrities such as Nora Bayes, who sang Shine on Harvest Moon, Blanche Ring, known for singing Rings on My Fingers and Bells on My Toes. At the Café des Beaux-Arts, the Messieurs Schubert and Connors, who managed Sarah Bernhardt, presented the actress with a $3,000 Loving Cup trophy. Douglas Fairbanks exhibited his acrobatics, and performers shared impromptu talents, not to be outdone by those at the other Café Society restaurants of New York. Two famous visitors to the Café des Beaux-Arts were Diamond Jim Brady and his special friend Lillian Russell. These two celebrities were not only known for their railroad endeavors and singing talents respectively, they were also gourmands, and would eat astounding amounts of food served especially for these distinguished guests. It was recorded that Diamond Jim Brady, for lunch, might eat 2 lobsters, a dozen deviled crabs, and then clams, 2 dozen oysters, a helping of beef, and a few pies for dessert. This would be followed, on a usual evening meal, with an appetizer of more oysters, crabs, green turtle soup, 2 whole ducks, 6 to 7 lobsters, a sirloin steak, servings of terrapin, a host of vegetables, and for dessert, pastries, and a 2-pound box of candy. Lillian Russell, a beauty of the day, once demurely removed her corset that had cinched around her 186-pound frame into the measurements 42, 24, and 38. Then she and Diamond Jim engaged in an eating contest. After 5 courses, similar to what he would customarily eat at a sitting, Jim threw in his napkin and called her the winner. Then he presented her with a diamond ring for her stamina. Jacques-Henri's father was innovative and decided that his restaurant needed a signature drink. So he invented a cordial and patented the spherical bottle shape, replete with golden filigree around its circumference and a Coptic cross on the top. This he named Bustanoby's Forbidden Fruit Liqueur. From 1905, when it was marketed, forbidden fruit cocktails were served in great quantities at their various restaurant locations. One recipe still seems avant-garde today. It was recorded in a 1906 mixologist's bar journal from Boston. Take a half a grapefruit and remove the pulp. Then turn the skin inside out so that it forms a bowl. Put into the grapefruit skin 2 lumps of sugar and 2 liqueur glasses full of Bustanoby's forbidden fruit. Set fire to the liquid, and when the alcohol has burned off, pour the liqueur into a special-shaped glass designed for this drink. Then serve while hot. Forbidden fruit liqueur was considered quite delicious, as it had the mixture of grapefruit and orange, with a red flame color, sweet, with a bitter aftertaste, and high alcoholic strength. André Bustanoby and his brothers Louis and Jacques, within 10 years, had opened restaurants at 40th and at 39th Street near 6th Avenue, and at 60th Street and 99th and Broadway in Manhattan. Their 99th Street location, they used an innovation of a recent invention. To set their establishments apart from those nearby, they used 240 Edison's Mazda sign lamps. These lights were so very new and registered by the General Electric Company in 1909 for incandescent light bulbs. While working at the 40th Street location, Uncle Louis designed and patented a fountain pen. He called it the duplex, that would write in both red and black. It was inlaid with German silver and had the groundbreaking design to be able to clip to the inside pocket of a jacket. Bustanobys, who had introduced the wooden dance floor, were pleased beyond compare with choreographed elegance. Celebrities shared new dance steps with willing audiences. To maintain the frivolity, they hired dozens of professional ballroom dancers to escort women to dance on their newly installed dance floor in the evenings. Soirées artistiques were added to the weekly lineup, and a good-sized assemblage of stage celebrities shared their glorious musical talents until closing time, usually at the crack of dawn. Bustanobys with innovative lights, 4 floors, 4 orchestras, and 150 employees, had a famous domino room with a decor of black and white, which was copied, and it became a signature style of the era. At their 99th Street location, people could choose the Dixieland Jazz Band, the Sophie Tucker Room, the newly acquired Hawaii Room, where new dances such as the turkey trot and the teddy bear were invented. During that time, entree into the establishment was expensive. Covers of $1 to $2 for a couple was requested. This did not include drinks. Drinks cost 25 cents and $2.50 for a pint of champagne and $5 for a quart. In front of this edifice, they expanded to an outdoor café that they called Café de la Paix. The day after Christmas, 1910, the Bustanoby brothers announced the intentions to open a cabaret des beaux-arts at number 8 Thomas Street, a place where bars of soap were once sold. The guests will sit at oaken tables surrounded by great casks of wine, some of them dating back to 1789. It seemed that their energy was boundless. Beyond the borders of Manhattan during the same years, they stretched their culinary empire and purchased 67 acres on Huntington Bay in Long Island. Andre was not quite 40 years old. Theodore Roosevelt was firmly in the presidential position, and at 42 years old, he maintained his New York perspective and held the rank of the youngest man to become commander-in-chief. He took his role with vigor, directing his attention to anti-monopoly politics and ecological conservationism. He began his second term. Theodore Roosevelt and the Bustanobys shared a common view of the Long Island Sound that was a paradise for both families. Roosevelt's Sagamore Hill lay on 155 acres of land. It cost $30,000, which is the equal to about $900,000 today. The president's 23-room house cost equal to about $800,000 in today's market. Bustanoby's Beaux-Arts Park lay on 67 acres across the bay. Using the Monte Carlo Casino in Monaco as their inspiration, they invested highly and renovated a 25-year-old 20-bed hotel that they renamed the Chateau. Bathing houses were enlarged, a casino was created, and a ferry service was installed that went from Stamford, Connecticut, directly to the casino's dock. In addition, while constructing this destination landmark, they built a car parking garage and a landing strip. Although cars were scarce and roads not more than muddy tracks into Manhattan, they saw the future of the automobile and the potential of flying machines. The Bustanobys served breakfasts, lunches, dinners. They operated a hotel and provided elaborate casino entertainment. Their mission was to create a place of artistic taste and touch for which the French nation was noted. With the American features of convenience and comfort combined at the Beaux-Arts Park, it was to stand as a home of fine arts and beauty, comfort and luxury, with a blending of La Belle France and practical America. While Roosevelt and his family entertained at what was called the Summer White House, the Bustanobys continued to follow their dreams and often hosted the Roosevelts at their chateau. The Bustanobys invested their money on elaborate landscaping and erecting a collection of sea-view cottages. They sponsored flying machines and were instrumental in the motorboat engine design that was recorded as motoring at 36.6 miles per hour, the fastest ever. Meanwhile, Jacques-Henri's uncle had fallen in love again and married his second wife. The bride yearned for a honeymoon trip, but for business reasons, the honeymoon was put off until summer. When summer came, there were more business reasons, and another postponement ensued. The bride would accept no further delay. She engaged a passage for 2 on the Crown Prince, and then invited her husband to accompany her. Mr. Bustanoby agreed, but within a few days, Lord Northcliffe offered a motorboat trophy, and an inconsiderate committee determined that the races should be held in Huntington Bay during the week of August 3rd, 1908. The Bustanoby Chateau overlooked the best view of these races, and again, for business reasons, Mr. Bustanoby was prevented from taking his honeymoon trip. Mrs. Bustanoby declined to hear about any further postponement. "I shall go alone," she said finally. "He can join me when cups cease to be raced for." As early members of the Huntington Yacht Club, André, Jacques, and Louis Bustanoby sponsored the International Harmsworth Motorboat Race of 1908, the first to ever take place in American waters. Held in Huntington Bay, the crowd watched from the rooftop of the casino as the Dixie II made an outstanding win in what has been described as the greatest motorboat race the world has ever known. Louis moved his direction, and it was in 1911 that Louis Bustanoby devised a rather ingenious solution to having their New York restaurants empty during the afternoons. He created America's first ladies' bar. Run exclusively for women, in the afternoons, no man could buy a drink there unless chaperoned by a woman. At the Café des Beaux-Arts, women of high social standing and assured positions would stop by after shopping or matinees. Cocktail glasses, as well as porcelain teacups with carefully concocted drinks to match their dresses or their eyes, were served. Sometimes women would come alone or with their women friends. In the evening, after the theater, the women were likely to drop in again with escorts, but it was during the day that women were able to have the bar to themselves. It was not only middle-aged matrons, but also high school girls who came to the ladies' bar. After matinees, it was a place where they could call their own. It was quite common to watch women powder their noses at the bar. There, Louis provided for them fans, as well as tiny bronze mirrors for this special clientele. Ladies were fussy with their drinks. Often, it was not the taste of the drink, but the aesthetic quality. They wanted pearl-colored drinks, amethyst drinks, opaline drinks, which served for a wide basis of mixological combinations. Once a woman came in and asked for a drink that would not match her costume or her eyes, but would match her soul. This, she said, was blue. Feminine drink combinations carried over into their food preferences. While men desired steak and potatoes, the ladies relished such original combinations as salted almonds, boiled in deep seawater with ripe olives, and miniature sandwiches of pâté de foie gras. Perfumed cigarettes were often smoked by women at the bar, and many new cultural norms began. Some women had their own private glasses reserved for them that ensured that women felt part of the establishment. Women did not drink when lonely. They seemed to want to drink in a crowd. They shared rounds of drinks and took turns paying for them. The rest of women's lives were highly regulated, so most of the lady patrons had to be cautious to not let their husbands or fathers know that they had been drinking. Ripe olives or scented chewing gum was often available at the bar. The Bustanoby brothers made a large risk and almost lost their license to make this idea to serve women a reality. It was because they had a good lawyer, Jimmy Walker, the future mayor of New York, that they were able to expand their ideas to have dancing and women patrons. The Bustanobys were creative firecrackers, and it was inevitable that something or someone was going to get burned. Intermittently, since 1909, Jacques-Henri's father and his uncles had experienced artistic difficulties, and they had led to lawsuits. Jacques-Henri's uncle Louis accused his brothers of trying to maneuver him out of the business. Their dear friend, the owner of the Beaux-Arts building at 40th Street, tried to make peace within the family, but fireworks continued, and a decision was made that none of the brothers could enter the restaurant under the pain of a severe fine. This peace plan did not work out well. Uncle Louis separated from his brothers and opened a restaurant in the Flatiron Building at 175 Fifth Avenue. This landmark building, that was completed in 1902, was perfect for his interest. He chose this building as it was one of the tallest buildings in the city and one of the 2 skyscrapers north of 14th Street. At the junction formed by Fifth Avenue, Broadway, and East 22nd Street, Louis created another venue. Jacques-Henri's father, André, became president of the company, and his uncle Jacques became secretary. They took over the holdings. The assets of the corporation were recorded at $400,000, though it was well known that their enterprises were cash businesses. The arrangements to pay off creditors and mortgages became difficult for all the Bustanobys unless solidarity was maintained. If they did, then the creditors would be paid, but if not, Louis maintained the privilege of withdrawing his stock from the trust. With conciliation, Jacques-Henri's father announced on December 20th, 1911, that they would not go into bankruptcy. Instead, they closed the chateau on Long Island that was open only a few months of the year. André died at the age of 44 in 1915 of blood poisoning. Jacques, his brother, who was a socialite, took over the business. For the next few years, he slowly let the empire crumble, and Louis died in 1917. Theodore Roosevelt died in 1919. The next year, the ladies' bar at Bustanobys also became an early victim, a victim of prohibition. Further, the age of the Café Society in New York also was halted. by a federal law in 1920 that banned the production, transport, and sale of alcohol. The well-established chefs at the restaurants that had become such landmarks, they explained with sorrow that they couldn't produce their famous recipes without alcoholic ingredients, for now they were beyond the law. It was clear that it was impossible to return to normalcy until the repeal of the 18th Amendment. It was in July of 1921 that the Bustanoby Empire was no longer, and it filed for bankruptcy. The forbidden fruit recipe passed from Bustanobys to Philadelphia distiller Chatham International after the distillery went bankrupt with the advent of Prohibition. And after repeal, the law that allowed alcohol to be sold again, Jean-Maurice Bustanoby's uncle created another restaurant, this one called the Café des Gourmets. But the era had ended. Trends moved to other forms of evening entertainments. But in less than 20 years, in one of the most vibrant places of that period, the family Bustanoby certainly had made their mark. It was their dedication to their skills and ingenuity that will not be forgotten. Many of the traditions they solidified more than 100 years ago are mainstays of today's dining style. Orchestras and dancing during dinner hour. Menus that allowed one to pick a variety of items. Ladies' bars. Dual-colored writing pens. The taxi dancer. And the product that made popular in the cafe society in the United States and abroad, called forbidden fruit. This liqueur remains available under the label Chambord with an adapted recipe. Forbidden fruit remains for the next generations a hint and a reminder of those who took their creative spirits to a high degree of excellence. This family embodied the essence of the era in which they lived and lives on, with the notion that it is possible to have prosperity at home and prestige abroad.